The Public News Service Daily Newscast for November the 9th, 2020. I'm Mike Clifford. A years-long grassroots effort by Arizona community activists to register and turn out hundreds of thousands of new voters helped drive a record turnout in last week's elections. Mark Richardson has our report.
Organizers say volunteers with the One Arizona Coalition knocked on doors and contacted formerly disenfranchised or discouraged Latinos, Native Americans, African Americans, and others, convincing thousands of them to vote, many for the first time. Yara Marin with Mi Familia Vota says the 2020 election effort was 15 years in the making.
This is a huge victory for Arizona. We have worked tirelessly. We have fought tooth and nail to ensure that our community doesn't face barriers when it comes to voting.
In addition to backing Joe Biden for president and Mark Kelly for U.S. Senate, Democrats took 5 of the state's 9 congressional races and won several other down-ballot races.
Almost 78% of Arizona's 4.3 million eligible voters cast ballots this year. The Guardian reports as President-elect Joe Biden announced that he would name his own coronavirus task force Monday, the U.S. recorded its 4th consecutive record daily total of new COVID cases. Coloradans of color are suffering significantly higher rates of COVID-19 infection and deaths than white residents. And health groups are ramping up efforts to connect communities most at risk with health coverage during the Affordable Care Act's open enrollment period.
Deidre Johnson with the Center for African American Health says getting more people of color enrolled through the state's health exchange, Connect for Health Colorado, can begin to close a long-standing systemic health equity gap.
You know, when you think about a lot of the barriers to access, it's really people knowing what resources are available to them. So the more we can get the word out, the more we can get people enrolled.
And a new report says the number of children in Pennsylvania without health insurance is growing, and children's advocates are concerned those numbers could get worse.
According to the 2020 State of Children's Healthcare Report from Pennsylvania Partnerships for Children, nearly 128,000 kids in the Keystone State are uninsured, the 8th highest number in the country. And as Kerry King, president and CEO of the organization, points out, that represents an increase over last year's report from 4.4 to 4.6%.
That's a little bit lower than the national average of 5.7%. The state is heading in the wrong direction when it comes to kids' health insurance, which is really troubling.
She notes the threatened repeal of the Affordable Care Act could drive the number of uninsured children even higher. I'm Andrea Sears reporting.
Citing a pair of problems, higher education groups want institutions to make it easier for students to transfer course credits between schools. Our Eric Tegedoff explains.
Members of the Scaling Partners Network say COVID-19 and the economic downturn are likely to lead to more students switching schools, but they aren't always able to transfer all of their credits, leading to a loss of money and time. Dr. Anthony Carnevale is director of the Georgetown University Center on Education and the Workforce. He says institutions largely function on their own rather than in collaboration.
We've never made higher education a system, and we've come to the point in our history where it needs to be, because the vast majority, or the majority, 2 out of 3 at least, Americans need higher education in order to get a good job.
Half of bachelor's degree graduates attend at least 2 schools before receiving their degrees, according to the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center.
In 2017, Oregon passed House Bill 2998, which led to the development of the Oregon Transfer Compass to streamline the transfer process. Protecting natural resources in Texas safeguards jobs and drives economic stability, reasons Texans need best practices to address scarce water supplies.
Suzanne Scott is the new director of the Nature Conservancy of Texas. She says as the population grows, Texas communities must work together, and people need to take personal responsibility to preserve natural areas essential to the state's well-being.
We're having hotter summers. We're having more intense storms. The number of hurricanes that we've seen this year should be something that people are noticing and wondering what's happening and causing things to be so different. And if this is what we're going to be seeing in the future, then what actions can we take?
I'm Roz Brown.
In the past century, Texas has warmed, with storms becoming more intense and floods more severe. Finally, our Suzanne Potter reports big box retailer Target has announced it will eliminate toxic chemicals from its receipts by the end of this year.
The company will stop using bisphenol S and bisphenol A, which are what give a shiny coating to thermal paper used for many airline tickets and receipts from stores and ATMs. Leah Segedy is a consumer watchdog with the website Mamavation.com. She says the move will make millions of Americans safer.
A lot of health impacts have been linked to bisphenol, like diabetes, weight gain, asthma, infertility, hyperactivity in children, and lots of cancers like breast cancer and prostate cancer.
Advocates of the change say it will be particularly beneficial to pregnant cashiers who handle receipts all day long at work. This is Mike Clifford for Public News Service, member and listener supported, heard on radio stations across the nation, and viewed on Free Speech TV.